Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and I've missed you guys. You guys and you 14.1% of you that are gals. This summer has just been crazy, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to have a lot of time to make reviews. It's been really bugging me, but I've just been busy with work, busy with artwork, had to go on vacation, and just recently, my son graduated high school this year. And last week I had to move him into college. So it's been hectic, and it's just been a time of change. I'm getting older now. So it has been driving me a little nuts, because I've wanted to talk about so many of NECA's brand new action figures. I didn't get to finish any of the Fred Wolf action figures really from the beginning of the year. And I just got this San Diego Comic-Con exclusive a month ago, and it's just been sitting here, calling out to me, Gary, talk about me. So now I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about this somewhat brand new NECA San Diego Comic-Con limited edition 40th anniversary First Turtles 2-pack. Will these two turtles be available down the line in single packs? I'm not sure, but for you people who missed out on it, I hope you're able to get these guys eventually. So these guys went up for pre-order all the way back on June 26th, 27th, and 28th. Like most San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, NECA has a 3-day period where they sell to us poor dudes who can't make it to the con. I was on vacation at the time and completely forgot about it on the 26th. From what I saw, it sold out incredibly quick, and luckily I was able to order mine on the 27th. I actually ordered it while riding on the bus from a Disney resort to Disney's Animal Kingdom. That was probably the most exciting thing about that. Animal Kingdom is not as good as Magic Kingdom or Epcot. No, not Epcot. MGM Studios, or I think it's Hollywood now or something like that. Yeah. Magic Kingdom and Hollywood are the best. I got my order in pretty early, and I think that's a good thing because I think it sold out quick that day too. And I'm not sure what happened on the 28th. Did it sell out really fast that day? I assume it did because I remember a lot of people being upset that they missed out on this 2-pack. So sorry, people. That's such a bummer. As I said, hopefully these two get the single card release. The 2-pack was $69.99 plus $10.99 shipping plus $4.86 tax. So altogether, I paid $85.84. And man, these prices are getting out of hand. As usual, the online orders didn't ship until after San Diego Comic-Con. So I got mine on July 29th, which, isn't that bad. But if you're wondering, I'm beginning to review these action figures on August 31st. I told you, they've been sitting here. So I actually find this 2-pack to be very interesting because it makes you appreciate the hard work Eastman and Laird put into our beloved Ninja Turtles. First you think, man, these turtles look a little strange compared to their final counterparts. You wonder if the turtles continued to look like this, would they have become so popular? This dude may be a little similar, but, 3 fingers and 2 toes sure made a whole lot of difference. You also think how cool it is to see the thought process of Eastman and Laird, You can see how they refined the turtles until they moved on to this, and then finally this. And even more so, this, This to me is like Eastman and Laird at their peak. And I think that, even by themselves, Eastman and Laird, they both sort of refined their styles a little bit and maybe even got better and better as the years went by. I know Peter Laird especially, I love his Ninja Turtles. As an artist, I also think that this 2-pack is very inspiring because it's like, these two designs just began as a joke among friends, and they became the biggest franchise of the late 80s and early 90s. A franchise that keeps coming back to entertain us original fans and a brand new generation every 10 or so years. They just keep coming back. There's no stop in the Ninja Turtles, It's a franchise so popular, even the goofy initial sketches are worthy enough to be made into action figures. This isn't the first time these designs have been made either, you know. In 2015, Mondo released a vinyl of Eastman's first turtle, and then in 2023, Bottleneck released a vinyl of Peter Laird's turtle. From what I understand, the Bottleneck version was very limited, and at this point, both turtles are super expensive. I have neither of them, so unfortunately, I won't be able to compare these NECA Ninja Turtles to them. So after my usual long-ass intro, let's get into the packaging. I just love that Kevin Eastman is still actively illustrating the Ninja Turtles. You know, this artwork just looks fantastic. Even if the action figure sucked, you know, this box would be worth it just for the Eastman art. He added some classic turtle weapons to these guys, you know, weapons that they didn't have in the initial sketches. Like you got the sword there, and you got Donatello's bow right there. As I said before, Kevin Eastman's style has evolved over the years, and I really like the way he inks artwork nowadays. I mean, it's sort of similar to what he used to do, but it's like I don't know, it gets grittier and grittier, I feel like, throughout the years. And I like the really thick ink line that he uses. It can make the shapes a little, I don't know, boxy or something like that, but I still really like how it looks. The claws and feet of these Ninja Turtles kind of make them look a little more vicious than, you know, the Ninja Turtles we're used to. I love the turtle with the beak, you know. When I look at him, it makes me laugh because I could just hear in my head, you know, with that long beak, I would imagine he would kind of have a voice similar to the Mirage Turtles in Turtles Forever, you know, very nasally when he's talking to people. Like, if you don't get out of my way, I'm going to stab you in the throat. On the side here, there's a fantastic close-up of the two turtle heads in complete color. Another thing that I love about Eastman's art is that he's still using duo shade for the Mirage characters. It seems like that should be a must. I wonder if he's actually still shading with real duotone, or if that's like a Photoshop thing. You know, I remember in one of the cartoonist kayfabe comic run-throughs, either him or Peter said that they still had like a stash of duo shade boards. If I was him and I had like a stash of this, like a giant pile of duo shade material, I don't know if I could ever use it. In my head, I'd always be thinking like, you know, what if? What if I decide to make another turtle comic and I wasted it on, you know, just some promotional art? Like, could you imagine planning out like a 40-page Ninja Turtle comic, a brand new one to finally like end all Ninja Turtle stories, and you only have 39 pages of that left? On the other side, you have the cover artwork, but now in full color. And this is missing the duo shade. I guess the front didn't have the duo shade either, but yeah, I mean, the shading here I think is still cool, you know? It still sort of captures the idea of the duotone. It just doesn't have that like same feel, but it still looks really awesome. You know, it's really well done. I wonder if Kevin colored this himself or if he had somebody do it for him. All right, so moving on to the back. Here you have like a really awesome lenticular picture. This might be a little hard to make out. But some of these turtles go from black and white to color, and then some of them actually have little animations. I think maybe my cover might be off a little bit because some of the animations don't really work as easily as I would hope, but I don't know, the color one seems to do a little better, I think. But as you can see here, here is one pose, and then here is another pose in black and white. And then for the other turtle, here's one pose, and here is another pose. You can sort of make out like the blue line too of the pencils. That's pretty neat that they left that there. Oh, here's another set of poses where you have this pose, and then you move it a little bit, and then you have this one. So it seems like the long-beaked, the Peter Laird turtle has got more animation than the Kevin Eastman one, because that big one on the bottom of Kevin Eastman doesn't have any animation, and neither does just the bust artwork of him. So unfortunately for me, because this artwork is so awesome, I'm going to keep this box. So I'm going to have to store another box with all my other Ninja Turtle boxes. I kind of like it when they give you like crappy boxes. That way you can just throw it out and it doesn't take up extra space. But I mean, you can't get rid of this. I mean, this is pretty cool. So you can go from the side here to pull out the main 2-pack box. Jeez. And there they are. These the sculpts of these guys look very cool, you know. You're so used to seeing just the regular Ninja Turtles all the time. It's kind of neat seeing different variations on the same idea. This box looks pretty similar to the standard Mirage style you know, single packs of figures that they sell. Closest one I have next to me is Kirby. The window is nice and big, so you can see most of these guys. Peter Laird's turtle gets cut off a little bit, but I mean, you know, I'm going to be opening this thing up, so I don't care. I do kind of think that, you know, it would have been cool if Peter and Kevin would have given them like their own special, unique names. Like, I wonder if they actually did have names for them before they came up with the Ninja Turtle names. That you could actually have, like, I don't know, Bosco and Dory. Those are the first names that popped in my head. What would be the names of these two guys? Like, it'd be nice if they had their own names, just because, like, then you could actually put them with your other Ninja Turtles and pretend that they're different mutation variants or something like that. You know, like they can still hang out with the Ninja Turtles, but they're actually their own special characters. Lots of people assume that they're just like Michelangelo because they both had like nunchuck weapons on them. But, you know, I don't see it, I guess. I gotta say, I'm always happy every time we get a spinning weapon effect. That looks very neat. Down here on the bottom right is artwork of the Ninja Turtles that were included on the back, or I'm sorry, on the lenticular parts of the box. So unfortunately, it's nothing unique. On this side over here, you just have smaller versions of the Ninja Turtles heads that we saw on the other side. And here it says, you know, number 28. So we're up to 28 now with these guys. And man, I feel like I'm missing a ton of these things, unfortunately. Hopefully I'm just missing some of the color variants because, man, 28 is a lot of Mirage figures, and I know I don't have that. And, you know, I don't plan on getting like some of the, like the black and white version of the guys, or I don't know. I'm still kind of mad that they put out the gray shirt Casey Jones and then put out the red shirt Casey Jones. Like, that was such BS. Don't ever go off of the Color Classics coloring, you know? It is not accurate to what the guys planned all the way back in the day. Moving all the way over to this side. This is just the side that we already saw. That's the side we pulled out that you could see already. On the back here, there are some action shots of the guys. It is kind of funny seeing these two guys standing next to each other. Like, I would never have looked at the initial sketches and thought that these guys were like on a team because the styles are so different. That's what I'm saying. You could sort of imagine that these are different mutation variants of the turtles, or maybe they came from different dimensions and they're hanging out with the guys. But even though the styles are different, I still think they look pretty awesome next to each other there, you know? They look like they're a force to be reckoned with. I like that they gave these turtles a tonfa, you know? Obviously, they are trying to connect these original turtles to the last Ronin. If you look to the right, you'll see a pretty decent checklist. I can already see some of these figures that I don't have. like regular colored foot soldier. I have the stupid blue ones. I bought like 3 of those things, and now you can get the actual first colored trade paperback colors of those foot soldiers. Like, come on, man. Why would you do that to me? I'm also really looking forward to getting that Rat King and the Triceraton. Love the Triceratons, and that Rat King, man. That is one cool looking Rat King that NECA has put out recently. Going all the way to the front and down on the bottom, it lists all the great people that brought this action figure to you. Well, you know, just the designers. It says director Randy Falk, Trevor Zammit, sculpt and fabrication Paul Harding, paint Jeff Trapp, Mike Puzo, prototypes Roger Fernandez. Lots of these guys have been working on this stuff forever. Photography Stephen Mazurik, packaging Travis Hasback, illustration the man Kevin Eastman. I guess maybe I should also throw in there that down on the bottom it says Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Nickelodeon controls the guys. I can't believe it still. So that's it. Now I'm going to open these up. Hopefully everything's good to go, and I will be back in a second. Man, I always do this when I say I'm going to start talking about the toys, but here is the picture behind the Ninja Turtles in the package, and it mostly is just sort of like Kevin Eastman's pencils. You can see the blue pencil mark, and you can also see like the ink. The ink line of the 2 Eastman turtles on the left is different than the one that appears on the box, so I assume that these were just early sketches, early mock-ups or something like that. The ink line is much thicker than the final ink line. It almost kind of looks like he inked it with a Sharpie or something. So here they are, free from their prison of cardboard and plastic, ready to fight evil doodles everywhere and be the subject of the meme, "Mom, can I get some Ninja Turtles?" "No, dear, we have Ninja Turtles at home." Ninja Turtles at home, right? Is that funny at all? I am a dad. Give me a break, okay? So off the bat, I'm pretty pleased with these dudes. I only had one problem that I'll get into in a little bit. You know, looking at the original drawings, I never would have been like, man, I really need those toys in physical form. But after seeing these guys during the pre-order and getting them in hand, I'm glad I jumped in on these because I think they're pretty cool, you know? As usual, NECA did a fantastic job painting and detailing them to make them appear as though they leapt right off the page. All the accessories look great, and they actually based them off of the accessories in this picture. This first group shot of the Ninja Turtles that Playmates recently released action figures of. I'll show you a little bit later when I get into accessories, but like all the handles match these weapons. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The one problem I had with these action figures was there seems to be like maybe some super glue or something like that, like some kind of glue that's on the leg here. And this little piece right here was actually stuck on the inside of the shell. So now I have a little bit of yellow paint there. And you can actually see a little glob of glue. And then down here at the knee pad, the foot here was actually glued to the bottom of the knee pad. And I had to use, you know, I tried to use some warm water and try to use a spoon to try to push the knee pad, like disconnect it from the leg here. But as you can see, a little bit of paint, I guess, is sort of stuck on that glue and is still there. And you can see that glue like a glob of it sort of running down his foot down to like his toes or whatever. I'm not really sure what I can do to get rid of that. I think maybe with the paint, what I'm going to do is, I don't know, maybe take like an X-Acto knife and just sort of lightly scrape it to try to get the paint off. If you have any suggestions, let me know. You know, I don't want to do anything down here where the ink is because it's, even though it's like it's a glob, it's a see-through glob, so it's not really much of a problem. I just want to get rid of this brown and I want to get rid of this yellow right here. But other than that, like the joints were pretty good. He still feels pretty stiff, and you know, none of the joints were too difficult to move other than that one that was glued. Same with the Peter Laird turtle, you know. The joints moved pretty well. I didn't feel like I was going to break either of them. So before we take a closer look at these action figures, I wanted to discuss some of the history behind these designs, because it wouldn't be a Raz Rentals review without me going off on some tangent. I've already gone on a bunch already. We got to go on another one, okay? I just want to talk about a few interviews and show where you can find the original sketches of these guys as they appeared in the comics. The first place that I know where these sketches appeared was in the 4th printing of issue number 1. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe they appeared before this, or maybe in some other Mirage comics, but this is the only one that really popped in my head when I was thinking about where you could actually find these when they were originally printed. In the back of the book, you have this very cool Eastman and Laird's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the beginning page. Here they kind of discuss a little bit about the history. It says, the Turtles look different. Even the original logo reproduced above was different. But the very first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle was this one, drawn by Kevin. And there's an asterisk there because right below the initial sketch, it says, penciled in 1983, inked in 1985. And I believe Peter Laird inked this. Maybe I could be wrong, but I thought that's what I read somewhere. And then over here, you have Peter's version. And I think, I bet these are pretty close to their original sketch size. As we'll see in a little bit, when you blow up that Peter design, the lines look very thick, like he was probably really small and it's kind of blown up a little bit. But down here it says, but what really got the ball rolling was this group shot, conceived and penciled by Kevin and inked by Peter. So, I mean, it's always awesome that these guys work so close together. And, if you want a nice copy of that, you can buy the brand new Playmates. I can't remember what they're called. Are they the first? Do they just call them the first Turtles? But you can. Every single one of those Ninja Turtles comes with this very cool group shot. And, what's even cooler than that is if you want a very nice blown up colored version of that group shot, you can buy the first graphic novel of the Ninja Turtles. And in the back, there's a few group shots done by the guys. That one looks like it's just Peter Laird. This one is signed Laird and Eastman, so I would assume Laird penciled and Eastman inked. But over here you have this very large print of that amazing group shot. I mean, that's very similar to how they appear in Mirage number 1. You're getting really close. That kind of face, where the nose is like ducking down and the bottom of the mouth is sort of sucked up into their mouth. I would say the biggest difference between these guys and number 1 is like their feet. And maybe some pads are missing and definitely the belts are different, but like you're getting pretty close there. They don't have wrist pads either. It's also worth pointing out that in this 4th printing of issue number 1, you do have some more sketches and some behind the scenes information for Splinter and Shredder. This very cool page right here where they discuss more of their refining of the Ninja Turtle design. I really like this one right here with Leo and the sword. There's just something about that looks cool. I love the face on him. The face looks really neat. And then over here on the right, you have like what essentially is the cover to Mirage number 1. This group shot here appeared in the Comics Buyer's Guide, issue number 542, which I don't have, but I bet at this point is probably expensive. Here it says, we mistakenly labeled it poster art, and after it was printed in the Comics Buyer's Guide, we received quite a few requests for the poster. Of course, because it didn't exist, we were slightly embarrassed. It's funny. Man, like I said many, many times, I really miss the old days of Mirage when it was just these guys owning the company. Now, if you don't have the $60 to $100 that 4th printing goes for nowadays, which in my opinion is just friggin' insane, like I bought that thing for like $3 on eBay back in 2004. You could get this brand new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate Visual History Revised and Expanded Edition because it also includes those sketches, and the ink quality is a lot darker, so it actually looks a little nicer. They really, like I said before, they really blew up that Peter design, and you can kind of see that, you know, it was probably a very small print to begin with. Although Kevin's here is kind of small. And it does include some of the sketches of Splinter and Shredder, and some of these really cool ones of them working out the Ninja Turtles. But I don't believe it includes all of them. And it also might include some new ones too. So, you know, it's, in my opinion, this is a very good book, and I'll probably be using some photos from this throughout this review. I recommend this. The only drawback is they left out the picture of the four turtles. This one right here. I don't know why, but they did. You know, I also kind of wonder if when the original version of this Ultimate Visual History came out, Peter Laird actually made a blog post correcting a ton of stuff in it. So I just remember, like, Peter Laird went through the whole thing, you know, and just laid it all out there. And I was wondering if the writer of this book actually went back and fixed all the stuff that Peter had mentioned. I mean, Peter Laird actually does a foreword in here, and so does Kevin Eastman. So I would assume that, you know, this is up to snuff. I also noticed a ton of other stuff that appeared on Peter Laird's blog included in this book. So, you know, that's great because I loved that blog. I've actually copied it and saved all the pictures from it. But there's just certain things where you're like, you know, I wish I had like a physical print of that, you know? Like this group shot right here from 2009 that Kevin Eastman penciled and then Peter Laird inked. Like, I thought that was a pretty neat print that they made at that time. You could have bought in that back then. But like, I always wanted one. And it's, you know, it's nice to have one right here in this book now. And no, the guy who wrote this book did not pay me to say any of this, but I don't know what the writing is like, but just having all the visuals are worth it. You got this painting by Peter Laird of the Ninja Turtles as they were originally going to design them. You know, originally they were going to wear these costumes instead of the costumes that they went with, which I don't think this would have worked, you know. But I do love these things when you see them in the Archie comics. You know, in the Archie comics, when they wear these as their wrestling uniforms, I loved that as a kid. Like, I really loved Raphael in this cool all black uniform. You know, that was like my favorite. I used to draw him like that all the time. So maybe it could have worked, but I don't know. I don't think it would have. But, you know, I love that they included this artwork in here. You know, and I'm going to talk about this more once I actually review the Stump Wrestling 4-pack that NECA just put out. I got it. I just got to talk about it. I know, as usual, I'm talking a lot in this review, but, you know, it just feels so good to be back talking about Ninja Turtles again, you know. It was a long time between, I think I stopped making reviews in April. So, you know, it's nice talking about some stuff. So, just for fun, I'm going to read passages from 3 different interviews where Kevin and Peter discuss the genesis of, you know, the Ninja Turtles. I recommend finding all of these books for their unique artwork. And first up, I'm going to talk about this comics interview special edition. It has a little interview with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. And this is worth picking up for the artwork because there's, you know, just some nice designs that you don't see other places. Supposedly, this is like the first appearance of Casey Jones in print. That's how they always label this thing on eBay. So I think that's a little interesting. One of my favorite things is either this this picture of the Ninja Turtles where they look like the Marvel superheroes, or this picture of Raphael where he kind of looks like the punk rock Donatello action figure. You know, he's got the mohawk. He's got like the keyboard that he's wearing. It's not a keytar, but, you know, close enough. It just reminds me of that Donatello. Here's an interesting shot, too, of Leonardo. That must have been a really early one. So there's a lot of interesting information in this interview, including, just how Peter and Kevin met each other, just their history, their favorite comics at the time, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is pretty early. This is 1985, I believe. Yeah, 1985. But down here, it says, who came up with the idea for the turtles? Who's guilty? And Kevin responds, once again, it was like we do our plots like we do everything. It couldn't have come about if we didn't feed off each other. It started one night when we were fooling around, working on a book called Fugitoid together. Lamar says, Fugitoid? Kevin responds, yeah, it's about a robot. It's going to be published later this year, but it was late. We were tired and just kind of joking around, and I had this idea for this turtle character with this huge mask on and nunchucks strapped to his arms. It was just kind of bizarre. We giggled about it. Peter did his version of it, and it went on and on. We got carried away and said, geez, why just one? Why don't we do a group of 4? And so I did a sketch of the 4 turtles together, and I said, hey, this is great. We'll call them Ninja Turtles, just joking. And Peter said, no, why don't we call them Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? So it was really inspired by both of us. To which Lamar responds, later day Siegel and Schuster, eh? Peter says, yeah, I hope we don't end up like those two guys. The next interview I want to talk about is from Amazing Heroes, number 107. This is from 1986. This has a cover that was done by Peter Laird. I don't know if Kevin did anything. I think it might have just been Peter all by himself, but you have these black and white Ninja Turtles bursting out from these color Marvel and DC comics. It's because the Ninja Turtles were booming. The black and white boom was happening at the time. So this interview is interesting. This one has a lot of really nice art inside of it too. I already showed you this one, but in color. I think this is the first time that this artwork was shown in print, but here it is black and white. There's some other neat things in here, like there's a mention of another Mirage Studios comic book called Grunts, which was more of an anthology comic book. There's only one issue that came out, but it had, many different stories in it, including a Triceratops story that you could count as, being a part of the Ninja Turtle canon. So if you don't have it, you got to find it. It also has the inks for the cover of Gobbledygook. And my favorite piece of artwork in here is this shot of Leonardo facing off against the alien. How is that crossover never happened? I mean, come on. You have Ninja Turtles crossing over with everything nowadays. You can't have them fight Alien or the Predator. So in this interview, Tom Powers asks, can you talk about the evolution of the Turtles? And Eastman says, your turn, Pete. We take turns telling this story. So Peter Laird says, well, we were living in Dover, New Hampshire, sharing a house. One night, we were sitting around with the tube on, just doodling away, and Kevin came up with this sketch of a turtle standing upright with a mask and a nunchaku strapped to his forearm. It was really goofy, so I had to do one of my own. Then Kevin said, if we can have one, then why not 4? So we did a drawing of 4 with different weapons. I inked that, and Kevin called them Ninja Turtles. Then I said, if Ninja Turtles, why not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? How many times do you think they gave this exact story to people? Tom asks, were you fed up with the whole Teenage Mutant trend at the time? Was this a result of reading 16 comics that were all the same? Kevin Eastman responds, I'd agree with that. We always read comics, and at that time, there were quite a few teenage superheroes. It seemed all the superheroes were teens. So that's it for that one. And I got one more. Last, I have a Kevin Eastman interview from 1998. This is from the Comics Journal, issue number 202. This magazine right here, took me forever to get, right? First heard about it on the cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, because they actually discussed the interview in here, and it's a really good video, but there was no way that they could possibly cover everything in as much detail as the actual interview itself. You can read the interview online, but I wanted to have a physical copy of it, you know. So for about like 7 months, I checked eBay like every day for Comics Journal 202, Comics Journal 1998, Comics Journal, Kevin Eastman, but, you know, it just wasn't there. You know, how could something not be on eBay? I just wondered for months and months, like, where the hell is this thing? And finally, I got it in a lot with, I don't know, like 6 other issues of Comics Journal. But, you know, this is the only one I cared about. This interview is very long. I mean, it starts on page 38, and I mean, it goes on forever and ever. But it is so interesting. You know, there's just a lot of really neat information here about what his early life was like, what his life was like when he was in the thick of it with the Ninja Turtles, and what he was doing now that the Ninja Turtles were, I don't know, sort of on the, like, one of their bottom points. I mean, I don't know. Like, even when the Ninja Turtles are on the bottom, they're just, like, in a transition spot. Because, you know, you had Next Mutation, I think, was around this time. And then not long after that, you had, like, the resurgence of the Ninja Turtles with the 2003 series. So, like, you know, it wasn't much time at all. But, yeah. So from page 38 all the way to 99, you know, there's a lot of stuff about him with heavy metal. And of course, Simon Bisley. I love Simon Bisley's artwork. But, you know, this interview was interesting because at this point, Kevin, I would say, has distanced himself a bit from Mirage, but not completely. He's, at this point, actually pretty excited about what he's doing with the Next Mutation, but only in a couple years, you know. He'll sell off most of his ownership rights to Peter. There's also some interesting stuff about Tundra, Kitchen Sink, and, as I said, heavy metal. So in this interview, Kevin says, "I worked in a restaurant and we drew every night. I'd get off work and we'd hang out and draw. It was in the fall of 1983 that we formed Mirage Studios, and as the story goes, it was a mirage because it wasn't a studio. It was our living room. We'd sit there, and Pete's favorite shows were The A-Team, TJ Hooker, Love Connection, really bad TV shows, but he liked them. My goal in life was to annoy him as much as possible while he's watching his shows. We'd done some work on a robot concept, sort of a misunderstood rogue robot story, as he was a big Russ Manning fan also, called The Fugitoid. While we were working on that one night, I did a drawing to make Pete laugh, of a turtle standing upright. He had a mask on. He had nunchucks strapped to his arms. And I put this Ninja Turtle logo on the top and flung it over to his desk. He laughed, thought it was funny, and did a drawing to top my drawing, changed some things, fixed some things. And then I had to top his drawing, so I did 4 of them all standing together with different weapons. And when he inked it, he added Teenage Mutant to the Ninja Turtle part. And we had this one drawing. Literally, the next day we get up and we said, at the time we didn't have any distracting, paying work going on, let's write a story to tell how they got to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So we did. We started working on that, and around February or March, we'd finished 40 pages of a fleshed out story, trying to justify why they got to be these mutant turtles. So that's all I'll read from that. But, you know, that's very interesting, and as I said, you should check out this interview. It's mind-blowingly incredible, you know, just filled with tons and tons of information. And if you have the, you know, physical copy, it's got a nice painting by Simon Bisley with, of course, Kevin Eastman right there. Surprisingly, Julie Strain is not on here. At the time, Simon Bisley was just painting a lot of pictures of her. You know, one of the best things about Kevin and Pete is even though they obviously had some rough patches, they never had the stereotypical court battle where one guy claimed full creative rights of the Ninja Turtles. They both always gave the other credit for co-creating the Ninja Turtles. You know, maybe it's because they got sued by everybody else and they couldn't stand another lawsuit. Or, as I like to think, you know, maybe it's because they both loved and respected each other. And even if they had problems deep down, the Ninja Turtles united them. All right, so finally we're going to talk about the reason why you clicked on this video. The action figures, right? And first we're going to compare this Eastman turtle with the original sketch. Now, I don't have very much negative to say about this. You know, I think they did a fantastic job recreating this drawing in the, you know, physical form you see before you. I will say this, you know, he has a very wide stance in this artwork, right? In order to get him into this stance, you kind of have to turn his feet in a funny way, you know, in order to balance him so he doesn't fall over. The knee pads sort of always kind of stay, I don't know, rotated forward. It's also a little difficult trying to, you know, move his legs down closer to a split because the vinyl of this torso here gets in the way of the hip right here. It just kept on pushing the legs downward. So I really kind of had to push it to get him into this wide stance. But, you know, after that, he actually looks pretty good. I think he is very similar to that pose. Proportion-wise, it's sort of similar. I think maybe his upper arms are shorter than they are here. Certain things like the nunchakus, you know, that you can't get them in that perfect spot right there. But, I mean, are you really going to be, like, that picky about it? Like, it looks pretty good. You can get pretty similar. I even like how the bandana here is sculpted to sort of sit on top of the turtle shell as it is here in this artwork. One thing I find funny about the original sketch is, you know, he wears that oversized mask and he has like those huge holes around his eyes and these little tiny eyes. I think it just kind of makes the artwork a little more funny, a little more cartoonier than the actual Ninja Turtles, who just kind of have like those white devil eyes. As you can see, they recreated that pretty well here on this action figure. The turtle shell is very similar. I mean, almost to the point where all the detail here is like almost here, you know, like you have this really long one right there. You kind of have one underneath it. And here it's just maybe a little more blobby, like there's a little thick line right there. But even over here on the top left of the shell, you have a very similar pattern to what you see on this action figure, you know, so that all looks really great too. On the turtle shell, there is one difference, and that's like this gap between the, I think you pronounce it the scutes of the shell, like the squares. It's actually completely filled in here, where in the original artwork, it's left white. I think one thing that I would say that's possibly a little different from the artwork is the tail. Like, I don't know, the tail that he has reminds me very much of the tails the guys gave the turtles later on, or even maybe Jim Lawson kind of drew, where the tail is kind of just like a smaller box sitting on top of a larger box, you know? Like, the NECA version looks much more like a natural turtle tail. The strap of the elbow pad is very similar. See how you sort of have like those circles right as the strap is connected to the elbow pad? You sort of have that with this action figure, although they're more triangles. I would say maybe the pad itself is not as pronounced as it is in this artwork. This original Ninja Turtle actually did wear nunchucks on his wrists with the chain connecting them. As we'll see with Peter Laird's version, he did not have that, but since NECA included this set of nunchucks on this guy, this is, you know, accurate. That looks good. If you want to get super nerdy about this, in the original artwork, the turtle had 4 fingers and a thumb, and this action figure has 4 fingers and a thumb, so they did good on that. He also has 5 toes, and this action figure, again, has 5 toes. I can tell you this already, like, you know, he's got like such stubby legs that you know that, like, you're not going to be able to get this guy into any kind of kicking poses or anything like that. This guy is a weapon kind of turtle. You know, that's how he's attacking. He does have, like, these sort of very long arms, but the legs are going to definitely hinder some of his pose ability. If you look at this guy on his own without, I don't know, any knowledge of this being the first Ninja Turtle sketch, he still makes a very dynamic action figure. You know, he still looks cool. The detail on him looks fine. He obviously matches, like, all of the other Mirage Ninja Turtle action figures. I do like that he sort of has, like, these long arms. It kind of gives him a little bit of personality that the Ninja Turtles don't usually have, because usually, you know, they're, I don't know, somewhat regular proportions. You know, this guy looks like a misshapen mutant, and I think he looks better for that. Not necessarily better for the Ninja Turtles, I'm just saying. I think design-wise, they made some good choices with him. He's got these little tiny legs. Look at the expression on this dude's face. He just looks so pissed. Like he looks so angry to see you. I don't know. I love him. I think he's great. I like all these ink lines across the mask. You know, that looks really good. Really creates a nice illusion of wrinkling. His, like, build, or whatever you want to call it, is just pretty good too. Like, I like the space and how they sculpted all this. You know, from the front of the shell to the body to the back of the shell. There's, like, all black in here. There's no detail in here, but it's fine. I like these huge, chunky... I don't even know what part you call this on the turtle shell. But, like, you know how you have, like, this rim along the turtle shell? I like how big and chunky that is. And then the back of the shell is very cool looking, too. I like it. You know, it looks almost like there's scratches and stuff. Some of these ink lines are off from the indentations, or for the indents of where the black lines are supposed to be down here too. I mean, it looks fine if you're just looking at it, but if you got some lights on it, you're going to notice it. And this was all, you know, NECA. They had to come up with this. This wasn't in the original sketch unless they asked Kevin to draw a turnaround, which I bet they didn't. I'm sure that they just came up with it, and it looks, you know, perfectly fine, perfectly good. See how that tail, like I said, it just looks very natural. It doesn't remind me of a Mirage Kevin and Peter tail. You know, I saw recently that they are releasing these 2-packs in black and white in the store that you can buy. And that's cool and all, but I don't know. I'd rather stick with the color ones. I'm not really getting in on the whole black and white variants. I think I already said that earlier in the video. So this original turtle came with one extra head. You can pop off the head like that. And pop that on there. Jeez. Now that is one angry dude. He looks so angry. He's got the classic Ninja Turtle gritting teeth face. To me, this is like the more exciting head. Instead of talking about them in the accessory section, I will say that he also does come with 2 sets of hands. You have the open palm hands like this, which is how he's posed in the original artwork. And then you also have a set of gripping hands. They have a tight grip, but it's not like horrible. It's not like it's really tough to get the weapon into the hand, and it's not loose that they seem to be falling out of the hand. You can actually open the hand up a little bit with your hand to try to help out how he holds the weapons. See if we can get the sword in there. Yeah, like I said, I don't feel like I'm going to scrape the paint off of this thing, and I also don't feel like the weapon is going to be falling out of his hand anytime soon. It's actually a pretty good gripping hand. Alright, articulation. So this guy has a ball joint at the base of his head, and there's also a ball joint at the base of the neck. He can look up that high. He can look down that low, which is actually pretty good. You know, he's got a lot of movement here. Really turn his head to the side and to the other side. You want to flip the bandana over so it doesn't look funny. I do kind of think it's kind of weird that, like, it's kind of hard to tell which direction the neck should be. I think it's kind of like this, where you sort of have like this like bend on the back of the neck, maybe. So I put it like that. These nunchucks, they have a little like clip right here, and you just kind of stick them up into the wrist like so. They do fall out every now and then, but they also kind of stay in place fairly well. The shoulders can rotate up this high. They can rotate around this direction. The elbow joints have a swivel and a hinge. And then the wrists have a swivel and a hinge. So I think, I think I got pretty close with that pose to try to make it look like he was standing like he was in the picture. The only thing is, I guess, like, because this arm right here seems a little longer than it is in the picture, like, the hand doesn't kind of get close enough to the face or something like that. Plus, also, this elbow pad in the picture is more centered in the actual elbow. Here, it's, like, really on the, almost kind of like on the tricep. There's no articulation in the torso. And then down at the hips, you have the basic NECA hips, where you got a ball joint, and then there's a piece that kind of rotates, or like sits on top of that, and you can rotate it around. So you can rotate up about that high, and this thing starts to get in the way. You can rotate a little bit forward, but then the shell gets in the way. You can't really rotate it you can't rotate it backward at all, because this shell gets in the way. And then down here, the bottom of the leg has a swivel, and there's a hinge. So the legs are awfully hindered, but that's just how this character was designed. There's not much you can really do about that. The tail also can rotate too. So, for what the design is, I think it still works pretty well. And hopefully, when I do like an action sequence, we'll get a better idea of, what limitations this action figure has. Next up, you have Peter Laird's Ninja Turtle. And just like the Eastman one, this one is very accurate. Although I wouldn't say he is as accurate as the Eastman Turtle. And I probably had a harder time trying to get him into that pose than I did with the Eastman Turtle. Because, here he's very dynamic. He's sort of tilting forward. If you try to do that too much with this guy, he's just going to fall over. Plus, I also couldn't get, like, this one arm up high enough, like how he's kind of has it angled upward. I couldn't do that because the articulation doesn't allow him to rotate it any further than this point right here. And then that arm was just kind of like, I don't know, I think maybe there's something with the swivel and the bicep, or maybe the shape around the bicep that doesn't allow it to, get perfect, but, it's close. I really can't complain. The head sculpt and the mask look great. He's probably got a little bit of a pointier nose, this action figure, than the sketch, but I still think it looks fine. The design makes me laugh just because it looks like that mask is being like super stretched across his face. It's like it's kept in place by the point of his beaky nose. The original artwork doesn't look like as stretched. It almost looks like maybe the cloth is laying down on his nose. I kind of like how the action figure kind of gives it that look. It kind of makes it a little more comical, I guess. When you move down to the shell here, just like the other turtle, a lot of this detail on the shell is actually included on that original artwork. You have the same number of segments. I would say that the lack of a gap between the segments is like one of the only things that made it from this design to the final design of the Turtles and Ninja Turtles 1. They definitely took more from Eastman's Turtle with the knee pads, the elbow pads, And even just the mask, that looks a lot more than the final Ninja Turtles than Laird's. If you move down his arms, you got nothing up here, no elbow pads. But then down here you have two straps that go across the forearms and connect to the nunchucks. Now his nunchucks are different than the Eastman nunchucks because the Eastman ones had a chain on them, just like the original artwork. These ones do not have a chain, but they're also incorrect because here he only has like a baton strapped around his forearm. But here they gave him the two nunchuck sticks sitting side by side. In the original artwork, the turtle had 3 fingers and a thumb. This action figure has 1, 2, 3 and a thumb, so that's good. When you move down to the legs, there's nothing really here on the legs in the original artwork or here, no knee pads or anything like that. I would say that it looks as though in the original artwork he had 2 toes and sort of like a thumb toe. But on the action figure, he has 1, 2, 3 toes and then that like thumb toe. I don't know. Maybe it looked better having the 3, or maybe it's better for balancing the action figure. I'm not really sure why they chose to go that direction, but I think even if it's not accurate, it looks fine. It's good. The rim of the shell here looks fine. There's many segments, many small segments. Same thing with the artwork. Now his tail actually looks a little more like the artwork. The original artwork is almost kind of like more like a lizard tail. It's a little pointy at the end. This action figure has a much pointier tail. And then the side of the shell, I don't know if I would necessarily say this action figure has like a shell like that. I think it's fine what they decided to do. Here it just kind of looks like, Peter Laird was probably just winging it. It doesn't look like the most thought out turtle shell I've ever seen. Just like the Eastman turtle, I think this Peter Laird turtle does a very good job of being a dynamic action figure. Something that even if you didn't know the Ninja Turtles, if this was the first Ninja Turtle you saw, you might be like, oh yeah, I need to get that. I just don't think he's as good as the Eastman one. I don't know, maybe it's because he's missing the knee pads and the elbow pads. He's just simpler. He's a little more simple than that Eastman turtle. I do like the added detail on the brow here. That's not really there in the original drawing. I think that looks cool. It makes him look a little angrier. You have more wrinkles in the strap. And also like the even the wrinkles up here on his forehead. These are both very angry turtles. Unfortunately, my turtle does have some like wear on the nose. It looks like as though there's maybe like a little bit of some paint wear in the red. And even by the eye, there's like a little spot there where there's some color loss, which is very unfortunate. Also, on the bottom of his neck here, there's some marks. So I don't know what the hell happened to this turtle. He's got a very wrinkly neck. Unlike the Eastman turtle, he actually has more detail here on the torso. I don't think he really had much. And I guess he did have some. I guess they're equal that way. I feel like, there's more lines up here. It kind of brings more attention to that area right there. And then on the inside of the shell, it's just black again. It almost looks like there's a separate piece right there. The legs look good. The straps look fine. As I said before, I like, the detail of these shells, I think, looks really nice. I think all of these, like, bumps on the shell looks really good. Again, some of these bumps, like, the ink outline is off from the actual bumps. And there's a lot of segments on the back of the shell. I think it looks really cool. It's a neat looking shell. And as you can see down here, the tail is a little more natural, like I said it was in the drawing. Very shaded down at the bottom. Overall, I think he looks very good. Like I said before, I really like the angry face on this Laird first Ninja Turtle. But if you want to see a really angry face, you got to put on his extra head, because this guy, man, he looks super pissed. And I think it's exaggerated by that pointy nose. And just look at those eyebrows. Like, the expression on this is just fantastic. There's even extra lines underneath here, underneath his bottom lip. Like he's biting down on it. He's so pissed off. Just like the Eastman turtle, most likely I will definitely keep this angry head on the body when I display him. The Peter Laird turtle, just like the Eastman turtle, comes with two sets of hands. He has these flat hands, which look more like how they are in the sketch. And then you also have gripping hands so you can hold the weapons. Just like the Eastman turtle, like I said, you have these nunchucks here, and they just kind of, there's a little tab that you can slip in through like a little hole in the wrist. The grip is actually pretty good. I really didn't have any problems at all getting the weapons in there. You can actually pull the fingers open because the vinyl is sort of soft, just like the Eastman turtle. And what do you know? He holds that sword very well. He holds it quite nicely. So I can't complain about that. It's not a loose grip. It's pretty tight. And I didn't damage the paint of the weapon to try to get into that hand. The vinyl is nice and soft. He even has a pretty tight grip on the smoothest weapon. You know, this one doesn't seem like it's being weighed down by the giant spinning nunchucks up top, so that's good. I do think it's kind of weird that, like, you know, they don't... I like this. I think it's a cool effect. But it's weird that the chain is, like, straight here, and then, like, this part spins around. Like, that's not how that would work. You would have the, you know, starting from here is where it would be spinning. I kind of wonder if they sort of did that, because it kind of looks like that in the original Eastman artwork. This dude has the very same articulation that the other turtle had. You have a ball joint, oh my gosh, at the base of the head. Apparently that neck joint is very loose. It's like the head stays in place just fine, you know, it's got like a nice grip and everything like that. But if you just pull it up a little too high, the head pops right off. So it's good, just could, I don't know. It's not like, it's like at least it's still keeping the pose you want it to be in. So there's a ball joint at the base of the head, and there's also a ball joint down here at the neck. I guess, actually there's like two ball joints, right? Because there's a ball in the head, and there's a ball where it connects there, and then whatever. So we can look up that high, which is pretty good. And you can look down that low. Not very low, but I mean, you get the idea. He looks like he's looking down. Can look to the side. He's got such a long neck. The shoulder joint can only rotate up this high, which is not very high. And you can rotate past the shell. The elbow joint has a swivel and a hinge. Got some pretty decent movement there. And then the wrist has a hinge, or I'm sorry, a swivel and a hinge. It's got such tiny little hands compared to the other guy. You have no articulation in the torso. Down at the knee, well, the hips. He can, I don't know, I'm getting to about that much of a split. Then you can rotate forward. Of course, you know, you can rotate around. Down here you have a swivel at the knee, and then you have a hinge. And then you have a swivel at the ankle and a hinge. Now, I would assume, because he has longer legs than the Eastman turtle, that you might be able to get some better leg poses with him. You might be able to do a little more than that. But I think his, like, I don't know, his arm articulation is a little limiting, or a little limited. The tail rotates around too. You got to have that tail rotation. And that's it. All right, so let's talk about accessories. Now, we've already talked about the nunchucks that are strapped to their wrist, right? We've already talked about the extra hands. We talked about the heads. So now all we got to do is talk about the weapons. And first, let's talk about the tonfa, or like the billy club. I'm not sure if this is actually based off of any artwork. I don't think it is. I think, as I said earlier, they just included it to try to make it, I don't know, Last Ronin-esque, you know. It's an Easter egg. If I'm wrong, let me know. Let me know what this might be from. But all the other weapons that are included here are the weapons that were included in the first group shot of the Ninja Turtles. Now, first up, you get 2 swords. And, you know, these are very cool looking swords. I really like the shape of the blade. You know, it's not just like the usual sort of like straight edge that Leonardo usually has. And it's interesting because, you know, it's the same style blade that is shown in this picture here. There is a little bit of a nicer edge difference right here. That's cool. There is even still like you see there's like a little bit cut out there. That was included on the original artwork. Now, you can look at the handle here, right? But you look at it there, and like there's this weird tangent going on where this handle is like going into Donatello's hands. Like it's just kind of weird looking, but you know, there's a better handle down here on the belt. So you can see how that is very similar to that. You get Donatello's bow staff. And unlike pretty much every other bow staff you ever see for Donatello where the wrap is in the middle, this one the wrap is all the way down towards this side. See, because he's holding this, you know, low, and you got the bow sticking up top. Very nice. And, you know, I'll show through the action sequence, you know, these Ninja Turtles can hold all of these weapons just fine. They got nice grips. Up next, you have the Sai. And you can see the handle comparison here. It's almost kind of looks like there's like a marble or something on there. You know, it's a little different than this ring. But still, I like this side. I think it's a very cool looking side. You know what? I'll show a picture of all the different Mirage weapons next to each other. And then last you have the nunchucks, 2 of them. And you know, these aren't very detailed in this original sketch here. It actually be kind of hard to tell like what's going on here because of the way the straps are wrapped around the nunchucks. And yeah, you do get the very cool special effect nunchuck that you can also see in this artwork right here. Although it's different, like I said, the chain here, you know, starts spinning right at the end of this. You don't have the chain going straight and then spinning. But, you know, like I said, I'm glad that NECA decided to include these based off of something and not just some random design. You know, I'm okay with random designs, but it's also cool that this is, I don't know, like a nice package. Like you could maybe give these weapons to the 1984 Ninja Turtles. Maybe. Nah, I would keep those weapons. All right, so here you have the standard NECA TMNT weapons. Up top is the brand new weapons that came with this 2-pack. Then it is the 1984 Mirage Turtles. and then it is the 1989 Return to New York Turtles. My favorite out of all three sets is definitely the 1984 Turtles. I love the metallic paint on all the blades and metal parts. They just look really, really cool. Some of the other ones look just kind of cartoony. Remember how earlier I said that I didn't consider these two Michelangelo, even though they had nunchucks? Forget all that, because now we can take a look at Michelangelo, how he evolved throughout the years. First you have these two designs from 1983, both NECA action figures, and then you had the group shot Michelangelo, which is a Playmates toy, also from 1983. But I decided to include it here because I thought it would be interesting to see the leap from point A to B to C to D. But it's just kind of interesting, to see the subtle differences between the almost finished design and the finished ready for print design. Michelangelo from 1984. Some of the biggest differences are just like the way that the feet are shaped and like the proportions of the hand. He doesn't have a belt. Plus he still has the nunchucks strapped to his wristbands. The 1984 Michelangelo though, man, what an awesome action figure. It really is like a crime that NECA hasn't reproduced more of this wave. Like, now's the time to do it. I feel like everybody still wants these original NECA Mirage Ninja Turtles. On the Facebook groups, I will constantly see people post pictures of like, oh, finally got some knockoffs of those Mirage 1984 Ninja Turtles. Like, what are you doing, NECA? You're like letting money slip away. I mean, I'm sure those people who are buying knockoffs would still buy them, so they can have better quality versions of them with really good paint and stuff like that. But you got to get on top of that. And then right next to the 84 Michelangelo is Michelangelo from 1989 from Return to New York. This design is more of the later refined Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman Ninja Turtle, but he is definitely, based off of Jim Lawson's designs in those comics, which, in all fairness, at that time, Jim Lawson was heavily trying to emulate Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Like, Return to New York does not look like a Jim Lawson comic. Except maybe sometimes he kind of draws the characters like standing with like their hands straight down next to their sides. He always does that. So I think he does that in that comic, in that series too. It's almost like a staple of his. Like he'll draw them without any kind of expression. They'll just be standing with their arms straight down next to their side. Take a look at a Jim Lawson comic and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Here you can see all their shells, and those are pretty neat. Playmates, I think, did a good job trying to come up with a brand new Ninja Turtle shell design. So I know a few of you might be thinking, well, you could have included a couple other turtles in that shot, right? Like, I could have included Michelangelo from Ninja Turtles number 17, the Wanderer Michelangelo. But I mean, that story, it's not even really Michelangelo. It's like a story inside the story. And I don't know if that doesn't necessarily look that much like Eric Talbot's turtle, The face is a little different than the Return to New York Jim Lawson turtle, but the body is essentially the same, same proportions and stuff like that. And the head, he doesn't even have like the white on his chin like the Eric Talbot comic book. And then maybe there's a few of you who are like, well, maybe you should include the last Ronin Michelangelo. Now, I would say that is the maybe most important, latest variant of Michelangelo, a new version of Michelangelo, but that sure isn't a Mirage Michelangelo, because that's an IDW Michelangelo. There's only one future timeline for Mirage, right? And, in that timeline, Raphael still exists, and he's got an eye patch. I don't know. It's sometimes, I know a lot of people, probably don't think it, but every now and then I'll read an article where whoever wrote the article had no idea what they were writing and will act like this was the future of Mirage because it was an idea from both Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. But no, look, it was written by Kevin and Tom Waltz or whatever. He is IDW. The Last Ronin is like a what-if story. It is not a part of the regular timeline. The brand new NECA TMNT First Turtles are two figures every Turtle fan should have in their collection. Not only are they mostly accurate recreations of historic sketches, but they also include awesome accessories and adequate articulation. I tried to put these guys through the ringer for this action sequence. I wanted to know, could they swing a weapon? Could they kick a kick, run? And I think they did all that fairly well here, you know. The proportions do make some weapon attacks limited, and the lack of like vertical wrist hinges won't allow for like a full sword slice. You can't tilt the sword forward. But I think you can still fudge things and make the turtles look dynamic. They still look good attacking foot soldiers with their weapons. There's not much range with those short legs, but I think the running poses I made came out fine. I also really appreciated their long necks because I felt like I could really turn the heads a lot and get like cool reactions out of the characters. There's lots of times I make these action sequences and the action figures can't look down far enough to look at somebody or look up or, whatever else. So these were great. Overall, even with the short legs, I think these guys are balanced really well. They still stand up even when they're kicking. On a side note, the foot soldiers drove me crazy during this thing because they just kept falling over with their tiny feet and long legs. I just couldn't really balance them very well, especially on my table. Also, the Eastman Turtles nunchucks kept on falling out of the wrists. The Peter Laird one, they stuck in a little better. I think it's great that the weapons they included are also based off of the weapons from the first Turtle group shot. So even though the weapons had nothing to do with these turtles, they're at least historic. It's not like they just came up with some random design. I would definitely recommend these guys. And in all honesty, I bet a lot of people probably won't even put them in like extreme poses or anything like that. I bet most people will probably just like try to emulate the sketch pose and leave them like that on the shelves. What are you going to do? Are you going to try to emulate the sketch, or are you actually going to pose them fighting the Foot or the Shredder? So, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of these guys. Were you able to get them? Have you been waiting? I saw earlier I posted in this video, I posted that it was supposed to be people who ordered on day 3. They weren't supposed to get their turtles until September. And then I kept on hearing from people that even people who ordered on, I think, day 1 or day 2, they also weren't getting their turtles until September. So I guess I got lucky as well as some other people. But, are you excited to get them? Are you excited to get the black and white versions of them? Which do you prefer? Let me know. I will talk to you later.